After the challenge at Okayama, the drivers now face one of the toughest tests on the season as we take a flight back to England and continue the historical F1 tour. As tonight, round 4 of the Race Anywhere World Series is here at Donington Park, and it is live here on Absolute Sim Racing. Good evening, everyone. My name is Craig King. With me is Daniel Hanover on the microphone and the cameras. And tonight, of course, we head to Donington, one of the iconic British tracks. Opened in 1931, closed in 1939, and reopened in 1977. Donington has those two track layouts that many people know. The Grand Prix circuit, introduced in 1986, used, of course, mainly for the F1 and the European Grand Prix, and other things like MotoGP. And the slightly biased here, the traditional and the best circuit, the national circuit, introduced when it first came back in 1977. It's the layout we will be using tonight. 10 turns, 3.149 kilometers, mainly used for sport car events, so the touring cars, Brit Car Championship, British GT3 Championships. You get the gist for the name National, of course. Track many picturesque corners. Redgate, the old hairpin, Starkey's Bridge, and the Robert Chicane. Of course, the chicane we'll be using tonight on the national layout. I'll confess, if you know the history of the World Series, you know why this track has a reputation from the past. That is why it's one of the toughest tests this season. Narrow track. There's not a lot of overtaking places, and it does lead to a lot of bunching up those trains and the increased risk of braking moves. People getting caught out from braking. Of course, last time was 2 sprint races. This is one 75-minute race now. On paper, narrow track should lead to an increase of fuel saving. Previous week's showing, it does say that pace is going to be more efficient compared to fuel efficiency. Daniel, I don't know if you're a very good fan of this track. It's one of my favorite tracks in England. Mind you, I like all the English tracks. I mean, what is your knowledge of this track and what are we expecting to see? I think we just got Daniel. Yeah, I think his microphone's just working. We've got him now.
There we go. Yes, we do indeed. We do indeed. Yeah, so in terms of Donington, Donington is one of my favourite circuits as well. I'm actually not racing, but I'm going to go for my first track day at Donny later on this month, hopefully, which is very, very exciting. And it is the national layout. It's not the horrible GP layout, because let's be honest, the GP layout, it's just got it's just a bit of added bits stuck on. It doesn't look very nice. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Donington, I've raced Donington several times in the sim. It's a very, very good circuit. Yes, fuel saving is a tactic. However, this is a very fast track, bear in mind as well. This has got a lot of high-speed corners, especially as you go through down into Old Hairpin, etc. There's a lot of things that can go wrong here if you're not careful. And track position is actually quite key. So you may find people actually starting to bat a little bit earlier in this race to try and get the track position for when the 2 pit stops come about.
Yeah, that track position is very crucial. You're going to think as well, there will be a chance to do some good light lifting here. Going down into McLean's, good chance for lifting. Going to Redgate, good chance for lifting. Even down to Starkey Straight into that Robert Chicane has got some chance for lifting, for saving fuel. That it could be some of those situations there, but we know what Roberts is. It's a chicane, and it's not. Your braking point, you're braking to turn in for the first part of it, and the moment you turn in, it is just full throttle there. It does feel like a delayed right-left, then a chicane, but we do call it the chicane, of course. Now, championship standings are going to be a little bit skewed nowadays, of course, with drop weeks already factored into the standings. In the amateurs currently, Michael Bannerman is leading with 230, followed by Timothy van der Broek on 220. Juan Manuel Kerr is on 215, and Andrew Madel is on 210. Then Simon Don and Dean Timms joint 5th at the moment with 205. So you can still see 25-point difference between 1st and 5th. Gaps are starting to just draw out a little bit there. Be interesting to see what happens after tonight. Pro-Am, similar situation. Alban Kelberg, 230 points in the lead. Adam Chmielewski with 220. And then Sophie Ridpad and Rafael Garin, both on 205 points. And then Ethan Bass rounds out that top 5 with 230 points between 1st and 5th. That just shows the gap's getting bigger. But the rest of the field, they are about 20 to 25 points away from the top spots. So anything can happen. And the pros, it is the RSR show. Sean Campbell, Oscar Copa, tied 220 points each. Jesse Jones on 215. James Armstrong on 205. And Sullivan Dupuis on 200. It just goes to show with Jesse Jones having 2 wins this season. Oscar Copa and Sean Campbell both getting some P2s and P3s. And James Armstrong, the unluckiest man on the track. Daniel, I think he's due for a win after everything that's happened to him.
Well, I think, to be fair, you know, this may very well be it. We simply don't know at the moment, do we? But yeah, I think, you know, this is actually going to be. I feel this is something that, again, Donington can throw a lot of things in the works. It can throw a lot of spanners in the works as well if you're not careful. So, you know, you've got to make sure that you are in a position. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything because that's not the best. Probably the best thing to not say anything at all, and just see how the first few laps of this race fall into place. Because if they fall into place, and they are going to fall into place for some people, they're not going to fall into place for others. You've got to be. You've got to. It's very easy to make a rod for your own back here. I've normally found I've been in the position where I've done something and I've made a move and it's not worked, and I've ended up really hurting myself for the remainder of, you know, an endurance race or sprint race, whatever it is. So the drivers are very much, while they are in, you know, it's in their own hands a lot of the time, especially here. This is a very crucial one that they have to make themselves. They have to give themselves the best opportunity. There's very few opportunities where it just sort of falls into your lap here.
No, exactly. I know from experience myself. When I got myself reintroduced to GT3 racing around, you know, this was one of the first tracks I went around. And just that one mistake, you can make some places back up, but you're not going to get that net result back that you were. If you say you're P3 and you make a spin, you go down to P8. Yeah, you could recover to P5, but with the nature of the track, you're safer to just go for that P5 than that P3. Try and salvage what you can. That's why they call it a salvage operation sometimes. You know, you're trying to recover, or your recovery drive is the better term. You're trying to recover what you can. And if it does happen, good, but it's going to be tough. And of course, we talked about the fuel. Last week, we did see some interesting fuel strategies, according from Sylvain Dupuis, taking the short pit stop first. Instead of going equal both, he went short followed by long. It did help him. He picked up a P3 overall. Can he do that again? That's going to be one to look out for, especially around here, where, like I was saying at the start, fuel saving, yes. But as we saw with Okayama, the pace was just so different. It kind of is the inexperience factor. I don't know if you know. I think you know what I mean. This isn't a track that's driven a lot on iRacing, if you know what I mean. So surely that's going to play into factor of people being a bit inexperienced with this. I know some drivers had to find setups for this, and or make their own setups. Some of them find them and tweak them. Some of them make them. I know some drivers were trying to do different setups from different combinations of tracks, try to see what an Imola set would do around here, or a Hockenheim set. Just try and find different things. But I can't remember the last time this was on a major calendar in iRacing. Can you? I think apart from this season, I think it's been about half a year.
I think the last time I drove Donny in the GT3s was probably getting on for. I mean, yeah, I drove it probably last 6-7 months ago, I would imagine. I can't see why it wouldn't have been in there, before or after that. It surely must have been. I mean, it may not have been, to be perfectly honest. I could very well be wrong. I had quite a long hiatus out from sim racing in general. Really, I was working so much and broadcasting so much that I never really followed the calendar all that much. Now in the recent week, I've now been getting much more into it, so I've been keeping up with the calendar a bit more. And this is a perfect combination. GT3s at Donington, they just work, and I don't really understand why they did leave it such a long time before they sort of got back into the swing of things, because this is a fantastic circuit, especially the national circuit. The GP circuit, again, just seems that last little bit just seems a bit out of place there. But the main things that we've got and how Donny really works with these cars in a racing scenario, I think it's a fantastic circuit. Yeah,
it's beautiful. And like we said, we could talk about the GP circuit and we could bash the GP circuit. A shout out, by the way, to the the proposed discussion revisals back in 2010 or just before 2010, and it did really change up. If you ever get a chance to look at them, do look at them. It was really nice proposals. I'm still not a fan of having that hairpin right at the end of the track. I personally feel if you've got all that space to make double hairpin, you've got all that space to make something like a club section, Club Velchicane section, similar to that, or like a Brooklands Luffield type of section. We've seen times in the 1 minute twos, but most of the pros doing 103s, most of the pro-ams doing 103s, most of the ams been between the 103s and 104s. It's going to be very interesting. What is interesting is the grid with PJ Clysons leading off the pros. Kevin Playton will be in P2, Cody Pride 3rd, Fabian Scheiseg will be 4th, Lewis Ward 5th, Dennis James Armstrong 6th, Jesse Jones 7th, Oscar Coper 8th, Sean Campbell will be 9th, and then Maxine Smith, Maxine Sotens, and Janis Albert will be 10th, 11th, and 12th in the pros. For the pro-ams, Florian Copeland will be leading them off, followed by Mitchell Marshallford in 2nd. Harry Wills will be 3rd, followed by Daniel Sedgley, and then Thomas Reiter. Ethan Baston goes there with Raphael Garin, Sophie Ridpad, Adam Chmielewski, Alvin Kelberg, and Stuart Reynolds at the back of the pro-ams, as you can just see. Remember, it is reverse championship standings, or reverse standings from your last race. And then quickly for the amateurs, Ashraf El Haddad will be leading them off with Werner S. beside him. Goetz Kaseki followed with Angel Padero, Dean Timms, then Simon Madel. Andrew Madel will be there with Juan Manuel Carrera, and then Timothy van der Broek and Michael Patterman will be bringing up the rear. Those guys have got a lot of ways to go. It's going to be tough to try and get around this track, really. Remember, you've got to work your way up. This could be the race that we start to see drivers needing to get those points could get it just to the nature.
Certainly so. Again, this is where it can really start to change. We don't know that is 100% is what's going to happen, but anything, we know what Donny can bring, and it certainly can throw a spanner into the works. A few more meters, 50, 100 yards, and then we will be going.
We'll be going. They do have their procedures, and PJ's going to be setting them off, and here they go. Or do they? He waits for as late as he can, and then he catches them out. You can start to see that Kevin Playton may get an advantage with this. Everyone's trying to go to one side all of a sudden. It's a little bit of darting, almost free wide in the back end. It's free wide going down into Redgate. That's a couple of the RSR guys getting a bit side by side. And as they head on down, it's going to be very treacherous. Jesse Jones does have the run on Lewis Woods. He's had a fantastic start, but the amateurs are starting to go right now. What is happening in the amateurs? Pro-ams, sorry.
Well, the pro-ams, as we go through, they just about go. You can see the ams just in the back there as well, so the gap not as big as probably they would have wanted, but we see Florian Copeland has just decided that he's just going to pull off into the distance, really. He's already pulled 0.4 of a second gap. That is Mitchell Marshallford has actually just gone through into 2nd. He's maintained his position in P2, so he's sitting there quite comfortably. Ethan Bass, you just saw there try and have a bit of a look up the inside. A credit curves. Oh, big spin for the number 10. That was Raphael Garin that's gone through. There's another bit of contact. We're going to have to see that in a few moments' time. But here come the AM category, and El Haddad has just disappeared off into the distance, as well as Werner S. So they've both really made some moves already.
He's made some moves there. Just see, it looks like Chmielewski's had a bit of a moment up ahead in the pro-ams. We'll keep an eye on that. But it's just been pretty calm at the moment in the amateurs. You can start to see that's another driver off in the pro-ams as well. We're going to have to keep an eye on what's going there. They've kept it pretty single file, but at the moment, El Haddad is leading them off. Now, Cody Pride is a little bit side by side here for the lead. Can they make this work down the corners? It's tight. They're still side by side. The old hairpin, that looks like. And they're still side by side there. PJ Clayton, Cody Pride going up now, going under the bridge, through the curve into McLean. Does Cody Pride finally have to move? No, they're still side by side. They merge, and they're still side by side. This is one hell of a battle. Does he finally get this into Coppis? Still side by side, but Clayton cannot hold on. He can hold on only so much, and Cody Pride finally gets that, and all of a sudden this is going to get a little bit dicey. Free wide going down Starkey straight. And Lewis Ward may hold on to this from James Armstrong on the inside. That was a bit dicey. Lewis with a bit of a twitch, and Armstrong gets that position.
We just saw a little bit of a tap there as well. That was Clayson's getting nudged a little bit going off into the... had to take to the escape road, which certainly wasn't ideal. A little bit side by side between Jess Jones and Lewis Ward. That's another car off into the distance. Who's that? I can't quite see who that was. May have been Simon...
driver.
Yeah, possibly may have been Simon Dodd by the looks. Could be wrong, though. We've got a lot of replays to look at for in the next couple of laps, I'm sure. Jess Jones still holding off Oscar Coper for the moment. Well, we've got a little bit of, I wouldn't say necessarily downtime, but let's have a quick look and see if we can catch up with a bit of the action. What really happened at the start of this race? We've got, this is actually too far behind. We need to scroll forward a little bit here to the actual start of the race. So this, I believe, is going down into the, oh god no, so this is very, very late into the lap actually. Andrew Medell, big sideways moment, managed to keep it all in check though. That was actually one of the biggest ones. And then we've got, this is Timothy van der Broek. That was a bit of a tag going through, the number 71. So that was at the start of the race. So getting a little bit of a tag, just being sent round. That's not the way you want to start the race by any stretch of the imagination. But a lot of way to go, bear in mind. And then there's also actually another moment from van der Broek. So I wonder what happens here. Is it a bit too aggressive over the curbs? No, tap of the grass on the exit. So that gap is just ever more extended. Again, something you don't necessarily want, because we've now got a little bit. This is Kalea versus Gesicki, side by side as they come down into the final chicane for the next time. And you know what? I think it is done and dusted. Gesicki concedes that position and allows Kalea to move through. He's actually pulled quite a bit of a gap already, actually, which is nice. We're seeing a lot of gaps open up. Have a look at this. Marshall Cavert has made up. He's only made up a position. Bear in mind, he started in second, but he's got a 1.2 second lead on Florian Copeland. So I think, you know, it's a very, 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 very impressive start already. Considering we're not even 5 minutes into this race, and that's a 1.2 second gap. So the toe has nearly been broken at this moment in time. And like I said, we're only just about to tip over the 5-minute mark.
Very early days. We've already had a few people off already. Chmielewski and Ridpad both in the pits after a lap 1 incident. But this is very crucial here. Mashalkoverd is he was struggling in practice. He was telling me he was struggling in practice. He managed to get it going with this Porsche. Seems like the Porsche is a little bit, it feels like it's sorted here, working pretty well. Stuart Reynolds there just having that battle with Thomas Reiter, taking a different line in Redgate, and he may get a run here.
That's brave.
This could be a very interesting run. He's going to go side by side down to Hollywood into the crane of curves. This is brave from Stuart Reynolds. And is he going to hold on to this? Wow. Wow. Somebody buy that man a lottery ticket, or somebody tell me where he gets his underwear, because they are a big pair that he's got right there. What a move that was. Did not think that's on. That is risky to even attempt to take it too wide through Hollywood before the crane of curves, let alone in the crane of curves. And now we're seeing it as well with Gesicki here, back at the field of the amateurs here. Mado in front with Gesicki and Dodd. They are having a little bit of a scrap here. Look at that. You can start to see the gaps with the aerial camera here. It is getting a little bit far out for some of these drivers, but it's just all happening everywhere. And like I said, tight gaps, tight racing, it's going to be tough. Is that an overtake happening there at the back of the field? That looks like it's Simon Dodd trying to make a move on Gesicki. Not yet. But you can just start to see those gaps. That aerial camera right there, that's a great indicator of how the gaps are starting to spread right now.
As you're saying, that's only in the first, 6 minutes of the race. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is a train and a half, isn't it? This is the train from P2 all the way down to, what's that, P7 of Ethan Bass leading. That was a tap there. Tap there for the number 21. That was Florian Copeland that went around. There was no way in a million years were two cars going to go into one space. And that wasn't a teammate, was it? That wasn't.
It was a teammate, but I don't think it was any touching. It looked like he lost it himself. He was slow through the old hairpin. That's what it looked like to me. I did have a little look. Look at the send from Reiter on Sedgley. Did not see that going through Coppice, but he's managed to make that stick. Was not expecting that.
No, certainly not. In fact, let's have a quick one more look at that from the roll bar of Kjellberg. So I'm really intrigued to see. Let's have a quick look here. Here we go. No, you're right. Absolutely correct. No contact at all. It just seems Kjellberg sort of put up the... We didn't even put up the inside, did he? Just sort of... He was just there. Florian Copeland just went a little bit... I'm guessing what you would probably see there... We're not going to look at the replay now, but if you were to look at the replay on board from Copeland, you'd probably see him maybe flick the car a bit too aggressively, maybe turn in a fraction too late going into Old Hairpin, and that caused the car to send around. So that could have been wide. Most probably would have been wide, I would imagine. Could be wrong, but you don't necessarily see a car going around like that on its own. It doesn't tend to do that normally. You have to almost instigate something like that, especially if that's sort of like violent. And it was so fast as well, wasn't it? It was like the flick of a light switch. The car just let go all of a sudden.
It did feel like it was a touch, and I think I was the same with you. First indication, I thought that can't be a touch between teammates, and it did feel like that. But like we were saying, the gaps it's now caused, and that is Scheisse going a bit slow there. What has happened there to Fabian? I'm about to talk about the gaps here. Let's just quickly look here in the Ford. Is that the grass on the exit of Redgate? It's the grass on the exit of Redgate. Just trying to take a bit too much speed here. Meanwhile here, Stuart Reynolds is going to make a move around the outside. And Kjellberg decides it's better to just hold back. I'll take the slipstream. While these guys are battling, the gap Mashalkoverd has now gotten is 3 seconds. All that fighting, he gained a second and a half, and he just continues. He doesn't continue to pull away. He continues to match them. Now, that's all he needs to do. If they're going to keep battling at the front here, all he's got to do is match them. He's in a good position for a podium right now. Let's not talk about a win. Let's talk about a podium right now. He's in a good position. And these guys at the back here, you start to see Reynolds is trying to pull away. Now it's up to Kjellberg. He's in his own train because Reynolds is... Yeah, look at the gap now Reynolds got in half a lap. And this is going to be another move here with Thomas Reiter. Reiter's going to try and go around, but that's going to be around the outside. That's not doable. That's not doable. He'll have to set himself up here. Can he get a little bit of a swing shot? He cannot. Tough to set yourself up if you're going to take moves like that. I got to be brutally honest.
Yeah, you've got to be... Oh, Sean Campbell having a bit of a tap there. Interesting. We'll see if we can get another replay of that from the TV cam. But that, I wonder what happened. It looked like Sean Campbell may have come across a little... Wow, that was sort of one half of one half another, really. Just no one gave each other racing room by the looks of that, to be honest. I could be wrong. Let's have a look at that one more time from the blimp cam. That has given us absolutely nothing to go off of, really. So ignore that camera completely. A little bit too far away. So, yeah, either way, Sean Campbell's not going to be best pleased with how that came about. Florian Copeland... Whoa, that was a big accident for Florian Copeland. And he jumps back to the pits. I believe that may be his race done and dusted. Cody Pride's getting hassled a little bit, actually, from James Armstrong. So, bear in mind, you see the gap that Cody Pride had at the start of this race within the first 5 or 6 laps? You know, that was a, 1.2, 1.3 second gap? Not anymore. Cody Pride is being pressured heavily by James Armstrong. And it's nice to see the Audi getting up there as well. The Audi is taking a big power increase. The Audi's now took a little bit of a downturn, took a little bit of a dive in performance the last couple of seasons, but the Audi is very much back now. And it's nice to see it being used and getting involved, especially with the Porsche. We know the Porsche is a strong car all round. It's not perfect, but it's a strong car all round. I think my money at the moment in the long run would actually be on the Audi, to be perfectly honest. The Porsche is great. I think it's just got the edge over the course of a lap. However, out of the two, I feel the Audi may be slightly better on the long run. But driving styles do play a factor into that big time, so we'll have to see how that develops and go. But my money for the long run would be on the Audi. Only 10 minutes have gone, bear in mind, so another hour and 5 minutes still left to go. So, yeah, I could very well be wrong.
No, I think you might be right there. The Audi really is showing its pace here. We just go see a quick replay here. Angel Padello, this is coming down to the old hairpin. Does he go too hard and snap the back? Goes in too hard, snaps the back. Everybody gets a row. Close one. Wait, there's more. And he wisely reverses onto the grass. Just watch this again. You think you can take a lot of speed into this hairpin. You can, but he just took too much, and then he realized he was going to overshoot the corner and started to turn in a bit too hard there, and the back went no. But no, this Audi, it's got some really good pace, and you can start to see because its sister, or its younger brother, sorry, Thomas Reiter here in the Lambo. He gets past Alvin Kjellberg. You can start to see exactly why these two cars, because remember, they're practically the same car, how well they do around here. It's got to track its speed. I don't know if it's the high speed corners because it's not a car that's good overall on the high-speed corners, but it's just those intermediate corners. It's just the quick up to pace. It's the acceleration. It just helps, and it just allows the Audi and the Lamborghini just to get a little bit of an edge here. I remember last time I did GT3 racing around here, it was the car of choice was an Audi or a Lamborghini, just for those things. So be interesting to see right now. But Thomas Reiter, I was going to say, Alvin Kelberg, he's had a bit of a fall. He started very strong, and then all of a sudden the pace has just started to fall off a little bit, and drivers are starting to get by him. By the way, we were talking about Reynolds. Once he gets in clear air, he might catch up. He's already gained 2 seconds on Marshall. So that is one to keep an eye out for. Can Mitchell hold on here? Pace at the moment is not looking good, but at the back again of the amateurs, it feels like the closest battles of the amateurs right now. Simon Dodd still battling Gesicki, and these two Madel starting to pull away from them.
Yeah, they are a bit, aren't they, actually, to be fair? I wonder, it depends if Dodd is going to try and get past Gesicki. You can see he's really, really trying to push this car, isn't he? Although, has he got a bit of damage there on the steering? It didn't look like he was actually tracking that straight. No, yes, he seems to be okay, actually. Just looked like he was driving that car pretty aggressively going into, back up the hill. Yeah, dropped a little bit off the back of Gesicki at the moment, although that gap is ebbing and flowing. It can't really decide what it wants to do at the moment. See Simon Dodd letting Cody Pride, and that was Armstrong through. So already they're letting cars through. Actually, I've just noticed James Armstrong compared to Oscar Copa, the gap between those, you can actually see on the left-hand side of your screen, look at that, 6.4 seconds is the gap between those two. That's an insane gap for 15 minutes, let's be honest. It's only been less than 15 minutes, in fact. So really, really pulling strong. And I wonder if James Armstrong is actually just going to sit behind. I don't think there's going to be any movement here. He's now caught up. Is there any point in making a position? I know track position is imperative and is important, but you're 6.5 seconds ahead of third place. So you've got to really ask yourself now, as if you work together, that gap maybe could extend by the time you get around to the first round of pit stops, 7.5 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. I don't reckon there's any point in fighting at this point.
And also, can we just point out for a moment, it's a 15 minutes into the race, and they've caught to the back of the amateurs, and yes, a couple of them had a few issues, but they're only a second off the pace. We see the Panda White Racing guys here, Werner S and Michael Paterman. Werner making the move on his teammate. Paterman has a championship lead to protect, of course, so you can see why he's just being just a little bit safer. But they're 5 seconds ahead of the lead pros. I mean, we could see a few more lap cars around here. We may get half the Pro-Am field lapped at this pace. These two at the moment going so well, and like I said, in practice, Cody Pride, James Armstrong, two of four drivers in the 102s. Now Garin here, has he done it again? Too much speed. Both of them too much speed as they follow each other off there. Again, Old Hairpin is a tricky corner because you want to carry all the speed. Maxine Smith's gonna do the same thing. 3 in a row. You just try to push hard. It's probably the one corner on this track where you feel you have to make those moves. You have to try and keep up there. So if you push too hard, that's going to happen. It probably is one of the fastest corners on the track. Can these guys get it? Alvin Kelberg gets it. Daniel Sedgley gets it. So you can start to see. You keep it safe, you're going to be okay. But I reckon we'll see some people have some accidents. Not just offs, accidents at the Old Hairpin.
Hopefully not. Sorry, hopefully it will be. Hopefully they will be quite limited into the incidents that we do see. It's a tricky corner. It's caught me out a few times, actually, to be fair, because you go into the corner, you're going in pretty fast. Like this, it's not a slow corner. I'm excited to drive it in real life, because in real life it's going to be a big sort of a wake up call when you go there for the first time. It's definitely going to wake you up in the morning. You do have to go in with some form of commitment. We've seen that a couple of times, as well, as if you don't go in with the commitment that you need, then all that's going to happen, and realistically what's going to happen is the car is not going to benefit you in any way, and in fact it is going to spin on you, and that the rear grip will just let go completely. So I've just seen Yanis Albert has just had a crash, so we're going to see if we can get a replay of that. Meanwhile, as well, up the front of the Pro-Am field, Look at that. Stuart Reynolds is really pressuring at the back of this Porsche. Marshall Covered is really, really having to work to keep Reynolds behind. Because Reynolds, look at that. He's only a 10th. Only a 10th behind now. It's hovering between a 10th and a half. It's coming down. Interestingly enough, look at the pro field as well. Oscar Copa has dropped the gap between Armstrong and Pride down by about half a second. So keep an eye out on that gap. If it drops under the 5 seconds, maybe track position, maybe something to consider at the top. And sorry, I was actually just going through the conversation. I didn't even realise that Reynolds had made the position. He did it so cleanly down into the final chicane. Look at that. Squeezes Marshall Covered a little bit. But apart from that, textbook move. In fact, it was a textbook move. Squeezed him just the right amount.
Yeah, it didn't need to do much. Marshall Covered is just doing constant 104s, just keeping it pretty quiet there in the race trim. He's done nothing but 104s since the start of the race. And it's consistent. It's what he needs to do. He's keeping it fine, but as you can start to see, the rest of the drivers, the ones with a bit more experience, starting to just come up behind him. He's going to start to lose a few positions. It's going to be a bit tough there for him. But if he just keeps it consistent, maybe we'll wait and see. Some of the drivers coming up, they have gone into the 103s. We're talking Reiter, Kelberg. Can they do it is the question. What's going to happen? You know, Marshall Covered is just there to just keep himself alive. He knows it's not there. He's gone a little bit wide coming out of the chicane there at the end, but he's able to hold it on for the moment. You can just start to see the gap starting to pull away there. You start to see Reynolds is pulling that gap far away. You can see now it's second. We just get our tower updated to second. That pro battle's still pretty close though. That's there with Pride and Armstrong, but we don't need to look at anything at the moment. They're halfway through the amateur field at the moment. They're about to get onto Dean Timms. Now this is going to Kaseki. Oh no, that's some of the leaders. Now what has happened there? Has he just turned in a bit too early? That's a very weird incident for lap cars there, but Kaseki losing out quite a bit because of it. Did he just turn in a bit too early? Let's just have a look. Oh, he turned in, was unaware.
I think, yeah, just tried to back off. Or
that's a shame.
It didn't go in as fast as I couldn't quite see who that was. I don't know who passed him. I don't actually know who that was. Moving forward, it may have been possibly. I'm just trying to think. It could have. I wonder if it was Jess Jones. That would be my guess. Looking at the color scheme and the Lamborghini that it was, I'm going to take a guess. Could be wrong, however, but that would be my. And to be fair, actually, that's a tricky one. That is a tricky one to go through and judge, because you're going into a blind apex. You're turning in blind, or you're turning in just as you can see the apex. But by that point, you've already turned in, so you have to go with that direction, really. And yeah, I just don't think there was. That was quite a big closing speed, actually. So I think, regardless, that was always going to be a tricky one to negotiate. But minimal damage to everyone. To be fair, I do want to actually see. I'm just going to roll back a couple of laps. Actually, what happened to Albert? What happened to Yannis Albert? Let's have a look. Oh, I can have a guess what this is. Into the barrier we go. No, actually, manages to keep it out of the barrier. Oh, I thought I wasn't going to be holding brakes then. To be perfectly, I thought that was going to be a come across the circuit and take someone out. Luckily, it was not. So Yannis Albert manages to continue going through. So, again, what was that? 10, 12 second time loss, I'd imagine. It's a pretty hefty amount, but not impossible to claw back some positions. Albert had some good pace. Just have to wait and see how he's able to pull that gap back. And if he's able to pull that gap back, depends on how he looks after his tyres. So his tyres would have suffered a little bit there. Will they not? Because no iRacing does not model flat spots. If this was in ACC, wow, that would be one hell of a flat spot there. But it will obviously naturally simulate tyre wear. So the car will be hurting a little bit. The tyres will be hurting just a little bit more than I'm sure he would be liking at this current stage of the race. But it's still salvageable at this point.
Yep, definitely salvageable. I must admit, I almost thought he was going to do a J-turn to get back on the track. That's what it looked like to me at one point. But no, he decided that he could not do it, got himself back going. So we've got P2 and P3 here of the amateurs. That's Manuel Correa and Michael Patterman. They do have the leaders behind them. It's going to be interesting to see. One of them's going to have to give way for the leaders. I'm going to guess Padaman. He does right away. Now, this is going to be interesting because Padaman's kept it to the right, and Armstrong's not going to get this move done. So, both drivers here are in a little bit of a situation. Because Padaman's going to have to let Armstrong through soon, and he's going to do it now. That means he loses time. But Armstrong could not get past Padaman. He's losing time. But all of a sudden, get down to the old hairpin, and all that time has been restored unless you're Michael Padaman. Kalea now has that 1 second gap. And now I think there, Kalea's going to let them both by before McLean's. And Padaman goes for the move! And that's a bit risky. A little bit risky there from Padaman. They did come together. He thought he could be a little bit sneaky there. Full in rank with the rest of them. Has not worked out there. And he does have a good run now out of Coppice. Can he do this? Good defending, though, from Kalea. That will mean that Padaman will go around the outside, and he just lifts. There's nowhere for him to go. He may set himself up here down into Redgate. We'll wait and see. Has he got the throttle on? He's got the throttle on.
He missed the apex.
Just so big. Yeah, he missed the apex.
Yeah, he missed the apex going through the left-hander. You saw that. He darts one way, darts another, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough. Not this lap anyway. Closes up a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. Yeah, you just see, if he'd have transitioned through the left a little bit earlier, he may have actually got a slightly better run because Kalea was actually compromised slightly going through because he took a tighter line. I feel, though, the pace that Padaman's got, a bit of a sideways wiggle. They actually see getting all 3 wheels was Kalea for that moment. Is there going to be another send? Possibly. I think Kalea would have got wise to that. Yeah, look at that. He just goes straight for the defensive line. Padaman goes a fraction too tight. It's really tricky. When you've got a car that's directly in front of you, your vision is obscured a hell of a lot. So it's actually very, very tricky to now work out where where your car is going to be positioned and where you need to turn in. This is why we always say in terms of coaching as well, always look for your other markers around. If you look for any other sort of turn-in markers, or the further you look through ahead into the corner, the better. You want to be looking around 2 seconds ahead. You actually want to be ignoring what's going on in front of you. This car here, at the moment, Padaman's got a massive, massive object in front of him. There's absolutely no point in looking at it too much. There's absolutely no point. Use your peripheral and just focus on what's going on a second and a half, 2 seconds ahead. Get the placement right. That's the key thing, and that's what will give you a small little advantage. Padaman is really, really pushing this car at the moment. Again, Kalea slightly tighter line. You can see now because he gets a slightly worse run. Padaman has now got the run once again, possibly around the outside here. Is he going to do it? No, Kalea again does give him room. He has to. And again, look through. This could be the best run that he's got. Not enough, though. The Porsche's got good drive. Carries good speed. Once again, goes to the defensive line. Whoa, look at that cutback there. What a cutback from Padaman. Is he going to do it? You know what? I think he's done it. Yeah, that's it. Done and dusted. There's no way that Kalea's going to pin it around the outside, though. Absolutely no way. You may as well concede the position, back off slightly, and let Padaman go through. What a fantastic move that was. That was very, very calculated by Padaman.
That was beautiful. You know what? Kalea has decided, I'm not doing this. I'm going straight into the pits. I'm going to take the undercut. I'm going to see what I can do there. Brilliant move there. You started to see that it was just a struggle. But it's brought Dean Timms into this battle now. Not that they wanted. But it goes to show, one thing that I was watching that both times, goes to show Padaman had a great run out of the old hairpin. And he could have gone around to take the inside line for McLean's. That required him to take that outside line at Starkey's Bridge. That is tough. Because normally, if you take the normal racing line, you track out. So you would have to compromise the guy's inside line and also ruin your line as well by going wide. Did not work for him there, and he did not have the confidence. Kept it in the inside, was looking for that switchback all the time, made it work. And now he's in a good situation. The bad story, he will have to let a pro through shortly. Good side though, clean air. Not battling anybody. Dean Timms just lost a little bit of time as well. You start to see some of the pro-ams are in the pits right now. James Armstrong on his own right now as Cody Pride dips into the pits. He'll be the first one to bite. Wasn't expecting them to come to the pits this early. I would have thought another couple laps, but such is the nature of this track. We're already lap 26. 26. We've had 27 minutes, and we're lap 26. We're looking at 70, 71 laps. I mean, by the time some of these guys come out the pits, they're almost getting lapped. Such is the nature of the national circuit, and you know what, Daniel? I wouldn't have it any other way. It just makes things so interesting.
It does, yes, absolutely, very much indeed. And as you say, this is an appealing part of. This is an appealing part of Donington. It provides some great racing, even with, you've got it's a lot of traffic management. It's a lot of traffic management. Interestingly enough, I was just noticing, speaking of pit lanes and pit stops, we are coming around to the first round of pit stops, 27 minutes in. James Armstrong has gone a lap further than Cody Pride. Now, that gap was very close, and look at Cody Pride. He's being held up a little bit. So I wonder if there's going to be some possible track positions. It's going to be a track position change. And is Cody Pride, because I think Cody Pride is getting held up quite a bit here. He's not able to push as much as he wanted to on this outlap. So really what we're going to have to see is where does it bring, and where does that bring Armstrong come out? He hasn't yet. In fact, he's just left the pits. There is Cody Pride that you can see just coming through now. And you know what? I think James Armstrong's done it. It's going to be close, though. Oh, my God, has he done it? Cody Pride slots up the inside. Just about manages, though. But it's going to be Armstrong decides against it. He's not going to try and let him have the position that easily. Has to concede, though. Wow, that was close. Wow. That was very, very close.
And he spent half a second longer in the pits. James spent half a second longer in the pits. No idea what that half a second would have been. Just imagine if he got the same time as Cody there. He would have been in the lead. That wouldn't have been as tight. But once again, he's back on the rear of Cody Pride. Also, Oscar Coper's now 6 seconds behind these guys. So that's going to be one to say, but that's going to be one to keep an eye out for. Now, of course, a lot of these other drivers have taken their pit stops as well. Maxime Sultans has taken his pit stop as well. I'm keeping an eye on that. I'm also keeping an eye on what's happening between these leaders, but nothing else at the moment. Sultans now battling Campbell. It's not exactly going well for both of these guys. Campbell making that move up, but for these guys at the back, yeah, Campbell's not had the best of races, and Maxine, unfortunately, it's just the BMW thing. It's not a very strong car around this track. The understeer is not working. Just look how close that is. And that's Harry Wills this time making a move. And that just goes to show that is his track. He lives very close to the track. He does claim if he does crash out, he is going to demolish his rig. That's how much he likes this track. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Knock on wood. We don't want somebody trashing their rig, but he's having a good little battle at the moment. Maxime Sultan's here. We haven't talked a lot about him. Made up 3 places so far this race at the back. The Benzo Racing driver, like I said, I think it's a BMW thing more than anything. It's just such a... I don't know what it is. I think it is just... The car likes to understeer a lot, and this isn't really the track for understeering. You can start to see... Look at him having to... You can see it. He's having to really turn that car in for McLean's, where you just watch Campbell in front. Who's that just gone backwards behind him? Was Andy Madel? Was that Andy Madel going around? I think it was. Yeah.
Let's have a quick look
just
at
caught the gravel there. Yeah.
Was it a quick gravel? Yep. Call the gravel. Okay. So just manages to keep the car, I mean, very, very briefly out of the barrier, which is fine. I mean, that corner, it's not too bad. You can go out of old hairpin and really sort of, you can keep your foot in, to be honest. This, however, flicks one way, then flicks the other. I have certainly been there more times than I care to mention, and it is not pleasant whenever it happens. So whenever it happens, it is certainly not pleasant. A couple of people on the YouTube stream as well. We got Eric saying, obviously, Armstrong was closing the gap, and indeed he was. Darren Pride is here as well. Obviously, in relation to Cody Pride, I would imagine, who is still doing very, very well, leading the pro category. And then Absolute Media says, hello, Absolute Sim Racing. So, hello, John. Thank you very much. And I hope you're doing well. Again, some good viewership. So, thank you, as always, for the support that people are bringing in. Exactly what we want to see and exactly what we like seeing. Maxine Schmidt has had... Is this going to be another... Yep, there we go. Look at that. It's just becoming the racing line now for what it looks like, isn't it?
I mean, if this was an F1 track, they'd be putting AstroTurf there right now. And let's be brutally honest, that's what we're looking at right now. A bit of AstroTurf. Just let them use it, and then, we'll just call it track limits. That's what it feels like to me if this was an F1 track nowadays. And to be fair, being they were planning to come here in F1, I think they would have done that at the old hairpin. Put a little bit of AstroTurf there and just extended the curb out there and just allow them to. But Such is the nature of the British racing, especially with the speeds of the cars they see around here. It's not needed. So that is one to see. Now, I don't know if you see a Kelbert there trying to get onto Marshall there. In front of him, Daniel Sedgley and Ethan Bass having a little bit of a battle. They're going side by side into Redgate, and Ethan Bass almost got in. You'll start to see him there. Almost got into the side of Daniel Sedgley. Look at this with the aerial photo. You've got two battles in the Pro-Ams right next to each other. Ethan Bass is trying to find a move here, and is trying to find a line, but he cannot find anything with Daniel Sedgley. Meanwhile, Kelberg unable to do anything with Marshall. What can they do now? Bass having to just pull back a little bit, just keeping it safe. Does Kelberg go for it? That is a late move from Kelberg. Wow. They don't come together. God, they almost came together twice there. And Marshall holds on to it. How long does he hold on for it? How long does Sedgley hold on to this with Bass? Now, this is for like third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Kelberg surely must have the move right now. He's got to try and make this. This will be a send if he does it.
Oh,
what a
too
lunge.
much.
That is a lunge. He's got too hard. And he's just held up Marshall there. He was lucky. I got to be brutally honest there. He was lucky. Marshall cannot make a comeback, though, because of the line. That could have ended pretty nasty. I mean, you had the same feeling as I did. That almost felt like he overcooked it.
Oh, massively. I mean, yeah, he overcooked it in the sense that he didn't necessarily make the corner, but he made the corner in the sense he didn't go off. He just didn't make the corner in the sense of a normal racing line, which definitely hurt him quite considerably. And Marshall wasn't able to capitalise on it. In hindsight, what I probably would do, what I probably would have done, and this is something, again, you pick up with experience and you pick up with general sort of learning, is at that point, I would almost have actually let off a little bit going through the first half of the chicane, because either way, Kelberg was always going to have a poor run. If he braked that late, so what I would have done is actually just backed off and coasted through the entire first section, and then really wound into the throttle pretty aggressively going through the left-hander here. So by that point, Kelberg, you would have pulled of enough gap so then you can get the slingshot, you can get the slipstream, a little bit of slipstream, down into turn one, you'll have more of a pace, more pace going in. It's something that, it doesn't come up very often though. It's very, very rare that you have to put yourself in that position, but when it does, you really, really need to make sure that you capitalise on it. Having a look here, this is Stuart Reynolds, so Stuart Reynolds just behind compared to Fabian Sideshed. So this is this isn't for battling class, but it's something that I'm not too sure what Stuart Reynolds is going to do here, because he's going to obviously want to try and get past, but at the same time, Fabian doesn't necessarily need to let him pass, because they're not in class. There's no blue flags going on at the moment, and if anything, I would almost suggest that, and I wonder if Stuart Reynolds is actually going to sit behind Sideshed and see if he can save a little bit of fuel at this moment in time, because if he is able to save the fuel, then that's actually really, really going to help him, because well, actually, no, saying that, he's going to have a bit of a look. Is he going to have a look at the inside? Yes, he does go look at the inside. He's decided that trap position is more of an imperative situation for him at this moment in time. Up the inside, Sideshed doesn't really defend all that much. So, Reynolds is now in the lead of the Pro-Am field, +1 on the Pro field as well. +2, actually, if you count Kevin Platon.
Yeah, but also when you think about it, not only is it just a track position, it's also think about the gaps. Because now if anybody wants to catch up to Reynolds, they have to get past Fabian. So you've got to think that's your way through there, and that's going to be a tough one. But also Fabian can now just sit behind, take some fuel, try and see if he can salvage anything. He's 5 seconds away from the next pro driver there, which is Fabian Smits, who's also had not had the best of times. So that is going to help him. He's not going to save 5 seconds, but he's going to be able to try and save a little bit of time and just hold on. You start to see, though, as well, we've got a lot of orange on the board. Remember, anything orange, that is less than half a second. And that is Clayson, PJ Clayson's with Maxine Sutton's. But PJ Clayson, he's had a bit of a moment. And I don't know what's happened there, but I've just had a look at PJ, and he's got a lot of damage, and this may be it. As he goes through the hairpin, he goes side by side, and car just says no, and just goes straight in. Very interesting to go side by side there. That was with Campbell. And is it the hit of the curb that causes him to get in with Campbell?
There's contact. There's contact anyway, I think. Let's have a look at it from Campbell's cam. Yeah, so Campbell gets over the curb. We'll go through once more on Campbell if we can. Yeah, Campbell goes over... Actually, to be fair, Campbell goes over the curb. He does give him room. He does give him room, actually, to be fair, I will say. So, again, one of those, one half of one, one half of another, I would say with that. It's a shame, but you can't really... I don't think there's anything that can be done there. It was just a bit of a racing incident, that one, I would personally say. Again, stewards may look at that slightly differently, but from my perspective, I don't necessarily think there was anything else that could have been done there. It was simply just a bit of hard racing, and one person, unfortunately, came off worse. It's always tricky when that happens. It looked like there was a little bit of not overcorrection, but the car really, really didn't like that small little tap, which is a problem. Sometimes you do have those pretty minor taps that can actually cause quite big issues, and that's one of the ones that we saw there. Certainly not ideal.
No, you never want to tap like that as well. And of course, the car, it does what we call the nope movement there, the little twitch there. And it's you never want to see it in any car there, but especially after after a little bit of impact there, it does go to show something was not right there with the car. So it'll be interesting to see. Even Bass there, it did look like at one stage that was going to be a little bit of a send, but Ethan deciding it's not worth it. No idea what this Ford can do around here, but he's doing all right at the moment. Currently sitting in P4. That is not an overtake behind. That is as a lapped amateur getting lapped by a Pro-Am. Even Bass is doing what he can. Every week I always ask myself, what does the Ford do? I've never driven the Ford. I've driven the GT2 version of the Ford, but not this. What can it do? And it's able to just keep up here. It's almost like... I wanted to say a McLaren Light. It's probably the best way. It's probably the way I would describe it, but it doesn't have that snap. It's just got a little bit of turning, and you start to see in the dirty air, he's starting to struggle a bit. Daniel Sedgley now starting to pull away, but near the end of the section with the high-speed corners like the hairpin, well, not really high speed, but the hairpin, once you get the throttle down with that turning, it does help the Ford. You start to see as well, he's starting to pull away here. Now, this is El Haddad. El Haddad has got Simon Dodd right behind him, though. We haven't talked a lot about the amateurs today. It's been pretty quiet. The moment Padawan got ahead, you can start to see that he's going to go. Now, Jesse Jones, we'll have a look at that. But Jesse Jones in the pits, no idea what that's for. That's a bit too early for a pit stop. Regardless, this is El Haddad battling with Simon Dodd. You know what? He just lets him through at Starkey's bridge. Lets him through at the bridge. You don't see that a lot, if I'm brutally honest. So... anyway, I think Jesse Jones, though, we may have to try and find a replay. I think Jesse Jones had a big accident here because he looks very damaged in the pits, and that was one of the top 5 guys. You start to see Campbell's now back into 5th. Something has happened to Jesse Jones here. We can get a replay. We will, but one of the top 3 guys in the championship is in the pits and possibly out of the race. Adel Haddad goes wide at the hairpin. He's going to be losing a little bit of time here, and he's just weaving. I don't think he's weaving a sort of slowdown, just weaving, probably just to get rid of some of the gravel, just some of the effect on the tires, possibly. But he's losing time to Simon Dodd now. Good thing that car behind him is not a car he's battling. Unfortunately, that is just going to be a bad time for El Haddad. Like we say, you make a mistake, it starts to play on you, and you just start to have. You just start to make mistake after mistake. PJ Clyson's though. Here we go. Here's the replay. This is PJ Clyson. Sorry. Is he going to take it again? How many times have we seen it? What a save, though. But, I mean, when you've got damage like that in the back of the car, not much you can do. He's down on power. Albert's going to come right by him, and just like that, they're going to fight it, PJ can't hold on to this, surely. No, he can't. And Albert, that's a nice little move there. Both cars gave each other space. Really well done by both drivers there.
Yeah, I think to be fair as well, there was respectable racing, there was clean racing, there was just about enough room left. I wonder if PJ's going to try and make the move back. I mean, in terms of the car itself, he's certainly seen better days, but he's given it a good old go though, isn't he? Look at that. He's on the back of Yannis Albert. Bear in mind, Albert had that massive moment earlier on, lost several seconds, but he manages to, he's starting to claw some positions back, up into P7 now. Still 5 positions above from where we started. How many more is he going to make? At the moment, PJ still trying to push that car. It's certainly seen better days. It is really, really hurting. It's actually lost the rear windscreen as well, and the rear window. And you know that the damage is bad when you lose your rear window. And the rear sort of perspex screen over the engine cover. That's a pretty hefty incident there. And you can just see on the straight, look how much Albert is pulling away. He's just sailing off into the distance. Pulled about, what was that, a tenth and a half, 2/10? Just on the straight alone. So Clayton's is managing to keep the car. Look at that, he's pulled up. He's pulled some gap actually as well. Let's bring the battle box up so you can actually see. So you can just see that gap opening up massively. They're going into the braking zone, closes up once again. But I fear that as soon as Clayton's gets out of the slipstream, that is going to be it. And unfortunately, that is going to be the end of that. What's happening with Sophie Ridpath? Oh, look at that. What a surprise. And it is going through old hairpin. Yep, there we go. I imagine what will be happening, well, there's a couple of things that will be happening, a couple of things that may very well be happening, is the track temperature getting hotter, so the car isn't generating as much grip and the tyres aren't generating as much grip, or possibly, perhaps, is it just because the tyres, after the first round of pit stops, remember, there's no tyre changes here either. So the first round of pit stops, what you're doing, all it is really, is you're just you're brimming the tank and you're not changing tyres. And by not changing tyres, you're just giving the car a massive load more trouble. So it's got a lot more weight to deal with. It's got the best part of about 50 kilos, 55 extra kilos sitting in the car. And you're not giving it new tyres. You're not giving the car new tyres. So it's got a lot to work with. And that's just something that I think drivers haven't quite adjusted to yet. And they're still not adjusting to. You may also find as well if the drivers are taking and they have been driving their cars a bit too hard, a bit too aggressively. Now the tyres are starting to drop off. This is a high tyre wear circuit. There's a lot of high speed corners, a lot of fast corners as well. Old hairpins are mad. That's a very, very heavy tyre deg, as well as actually the rest, the remainder of the lap. They're all really long corners as well. So that's certainly not going to help the situation. So maybe that's come into a factor as well. It's just taken a little bit more time than I would have expected from the drivers to get used to old hairpin, because that's it's not going to be the last we've seen it though, is it? Let's be honest.
No. In fact, I gotta be brutally honest. I'm surprised we haven't said it yet. It's a good thing it's not a drinking contest for people taking a drink or something every time we show somebody going wide at the old hairpin. It's such the nature of the track, though. It is one of those things, and you start to see how it is playing on the drivers. The track, though, is interesting. It's 9:21 sim time. The track is still 18 Celsius. What's interesting is they started practice as the sun was rising, and now all of a sudden you've got the cars. You've got the sun out. It is the morning. They've had the coldest time of the day, and it's still 18 Celsius out there. So they have got some of the best conditions you can have around here. It's just at the moment there is nothing else they can do but holding on to their tires. And remember, apart from a VRS endurance, you don't get to push these tires this far during a race around here, because nobody does 75-minute races, and that is what is so unique about the World Series. As we're seeing Cody Pride right here making some battles. There is some other battles brewing. You see those two orange numbers there? Yes, in the Pro-Am. That is Kelberg, Ethan Bath, Daniel Sedgley. They have had some lap traffic to get around. Werner S. is that car in the back. He's let them through. You start to see these three guys have been coming around. What's interesting is, Daniel, the pit window is open. I know we talk about it. We know we say it's a bit too early. But with the way the traffic is right now, surely somebody would pay off that at Van der Burg, by the way, off on the gravel there. Surely it would pay right now for somebody to take a risk and take an early pit stop. Probably Kelberg, probably Bass. I think you've got to start thinking about that right now.
Yeah, the further you are down the field, the more it may be worth taking an early pit stop. The person that I would actually be considering maybe going for an early pit stop is Harry Wills. He's currently down in P7, started in P5 as he's dropped down a couple of positions. And yeah, we know that BMW, she said, it's not the best car. It's not the best car around here, and it does suffer with that front end. It doesn't get the car quite far around. You actually notice here as well, look at all the other cars. You know, the BMW is the only front engine drive car. So you don't see the Merc being used anymore, although the Merc is a pretty fast car now with the most recent BOP. But even so, you just don't see it being used all that much. It's a track like this doesn't necessarily favour the front engine cars. It's too much understeer build up. The car doesn't really want to turn into the corner half the time, especially when the tyres start to go off. You know, it's a tricky car to wrestle around. So if I was in Harry Will's position, I may think of actually pulling into the bits early. Because at the moment, yes, he's maintaining a gap to Marshall Caverd, but also, how much fuel are you really going to be saving? You can probably still save almost as much fuel with, you know, simply just a bit of lift and coast and coasting through the corners a little bit more. I don't really think there's actually that much benefit, or there's less benefit. There is benefit, obviously, but there's less benefit actually going through and trying to sit behind someone, because there's no real major straights. This will be the two biggest ones of this one, and I probably imagine the start-finish line as well. They're the two biggest straights. You just don't get that much in there, to be fair, in the way of slipstream. Is...
Well...
I was about to say, is this match we're going to see? Yeah, I was going to actually say, I just pull that as well. Ethan Bass is the first person early in the pit lane. And I wonder... He's very early in the pit lane, actually. No, actually, no, okay.
He'll be fine.
Yeah,
he'll be fine.
I think compared, you know, when you actually look at the... when we actually look at the gaps, when we look at the times, yeah, he will definitely be fine. Obviously, he'll make it to the end. But again, he has pitted quite a lot earlier than everyone else. I don't think we're going to see everyone else in for... Actually, Jess Jones has also come into the pits for a second pit stop. I don't reckon we'll see that many people come in. It'll be another couple of laps, I think, and then we'll see people really start to throw it into the pit lane.
Tell you something I've noticed as well. Even Bass has gone into the pit lane. You don't see a yellow number on that timing tower right now with Kjellberg and Sedgley. The gap is over a second. Ethan Bass was bringing everybody together. Ethan comes into the pits. These two don't have a slipstream. Sedgley can pull away as well. We start to see a couple pros now. Albert into the pits as well. But this right now, Kjellberg does not have the slipstream. He gets in a little bit of it, then he starts to pick up the dirty air. It just affects him a little bit. He starts closing in, and then he gets it again. So that is going to be a bit of a challenge. And I wonder if that is going to hinder him, because, yeah, even Bass was, what, about 0.3 ahead of Kjellberg. Could be right now, what? That could turn into another half a second. We don't know what's going to happen with Sedgley. So one to watch, just like this. The amateur Simon Dodd and El Haddad having a little bit of a drive around right now. What can El Haddad do? He's had a really good drive, unfortunately, but that BMW letting a couple of the pros through. Very aggressive letting the pros through there. Hitting the brakes hard. He lets Reynolds go by, and that allows Simon Dodd to get a 2-second lead. I understand sometimes you want to let the drivers through, but I think that was a little bit too hard there from El Haddad. Usually you want to just go lifting there. You want to just lift, take the outside line, let them just take their normal line where you compromise yours. Sometimes that's the better way. To get onto the side of the track and hit the brakes like that, not the best way, especially with the blue flag rules. You've got to ask yourself, does that make you predictable? No, it doesn't. Unless you're telegraphing what you're doing. But with Simon Dodd, that allows him to just get a little bit of clear breathing space right now. He is in the mix of a Porsche Pro and Pro-Am sandwich at the moment, but he will be letting them through. Meanwhile, you can just see he's having a bit of a time here now. Just a quick. Oh no! No, that was a BMW. Was that El Haddad?
I think it was.
That is El Haddad. Yeah, El Haddad with the damage on the front. And that is unfortunate for Jesse Jones. Now let's just watch this. Misses the apex, loses it there. You can start to see that is the struggle of the BMW. No.
Oh no.
Oh, not the corner either to come back on the track. Oh no. And that, I'm sorry. Actually, that's on you, my friend. I hate to be the man who calls it on the broadcast, but I call it how I see it. And unfortunately, and even again, just as the replay ends there, just almost comes back on the track and, yeah, misses the apex completely. And then that car's just well, there's nowhere for that car to go but backwards. And and Jesse Jones, he's already had, you know, that was the incident, and he's just not been the same ever since.
Well, I mean, that car's taken a battering, isn't it? That car would have taken an absolute pounding there. Yeah, again, like, don't get me wrong, I have been there in that position. I've been in that position, you know, both sides of it, and I think you feel equally bad either way. There's you know, if you're the person that has been tapped and that was involved in the incident, you were the person that didn't really do much, and it's very, very disheartening. And similarly as well, like, if something like that happens and you do that to someone else, you immediately feel like, oh, hang on a minute, that was probably not the wisest move to do. Yeah, I do feel for both of them, because it's not nice either way. But we move on. We continue forward. Lewis Ward, you can just see over on the left-hand side, has come into the pits. Kellberg has also had a moment. What's happened to Kellberg? He's actually had, I think, what is it going to be? What I think it is. Look at that. Is it going to be on the grass? Yep, keep your foot in. Happy days. Look at that. Nothing, no mess, no fuss. Off we go. So, yeah, more people coming into the pits now. 53 minutes have gone. 20 minutes are remaining in this race. And we see now everyone coming into the pits. So, yeah, a couple of laps later. And this is now when the pit stops are all in full swing. We just actually, Jesse just put as well, interestingly enough, El Haddad is still able to go. So that car certainly took a bit of a pounding, and it managed to, Jesse Jones made a good couple of points there, is the BMW didn't get a meatball. So it might not be the best suited car in here, but it's a bit of a tank. And also, Jones had 30 minutes of required repairs on the Lambo. Required, that is. That's not optional. That's required.
Required?
Yep.
Required. Let's be brutally honest. The moment you see that impact, you got to ask yourself, where's the smoke? Where's the engine? Because we all know that if you get a good head-on impact on that BMW, you're going to blow the engine. I'm surprised the engine didn't blow. You know, I know it's a side-on impact. It was still an impact to the front of the car. Very interesting to see what happened there. So, I mean, I've always made the joke that the BMW is built like a tank. It really can take a battering, and I would usually say, well, the newer cars that release on iRacing, they've got slightly better resistance and damage, but the Lamborghini's just as young, as the BMW. So very interesting to see that. Werner S here, by the way, in a battle with Manuel Carrera, and you can see Dean Timms just coming out there as well. Padawan yet to pit. He's having it all his way at the moment. These are the battles that are now going to happen with 20 minutes remaining. We always say, wait till the end, then you'll get a better idea of where the battles are. That is a Porsche against a Lamborghini, and we know how good the Porsche is. We know how good the Lamborghini is. I would put this in the hands of the Porsche just for that pace difference. But it's going to be interesting to see what Werner S can do for Panda 1 White. Is he going to be able to? In some respects, the Lamborghini just I would say, better in the dirty air. There is no, there is no perfect car for the dirty air, but Lamborghini, I think, might be suited for the dirty air. But is he going to be getting around here? Remember, it is very hard to get around anywhere here. We have seen it before. He's going to have to keep pushing, and with the lap times they're doing, if they're matching, there's no point. And I just saw, I hate to say it, I've just seen Harry Wills lose the car, and Harry Wills has towed the car. Somebody make sure he doesn't do anything to his rig. That's all I'm saying.
So, I mean, let's have a look as to why this happened. So, is it gonna be? Oh, yeah, that's what happens when you're not that's not the best way to. Hey, that was close. Yeah, that's not the way that you want to go off the circuit going through, and that certainly hasn't gone well, has it? That's a bit of a shame. Yeah, so let's hope that Harry was able to race next week if this rig has not been completely battered to a pulp. Sojcek and Schmidt having a battle in the pros, but they're sandwiched in between Thomas Reiter, who's only about half a second. There's Thomas Reiter there in the white Lamborghini. He's got a 3.5 second advantage on Kjellberg, though. You can just see there who's a couple of, he's got Daniel Secchi a little bit behind as well. So I don't think Reiter's going to be too worried. Whoa, that was a big moment there for. That was a big moment there for Sojcek, wasn't it? That was very, very close. Yeah, sorry, that was Schmidt even. I don't think Reiter's going to be too fast, although he is pretty close to the back of Schmidt now, considering he had that big, big moment. There is the Panda 1 purple car. I think maybe just take this opportunity. There's going to be no need to save fuel now because everyone's done 2 pit stops, so there's no real need to conserve your pit stops anymore. But if anything, almost Schmidt just needs... No, he wants to get by, doesn't he? He wants to get by, but this is going to cost him. I don't reckon it's worth... Is it worth it? Is it worth trying to get past? Because all of a sudden that's going to happen, and look at that. The gap has already come down 3.5 tenths. You'll see that between Reiter and Kjellberg. You'll see that time has just dropped about 3.5 tenths. Probably even more than that, about half a second. 3.1 is the gap now. We're seeing on the timing towers. It'll update for you in a few moments' time. There it is, 3.1. You can't do that. There's no point. It's just let the battling ahead happen. If you're able to hold that 3-second gap for the next 15 minutes, you'll be fine. And as long as Schmidt isn't actually gaining any more pace, he's not dropping any more pace from you compared to Kjellberg, what's the point? Just sit behind.
Just sit behind, exactly. If you can just hold on to that pace, you can. I want to just quickly point out something. You see at the top of the pros, that is now a 2.5 second gap. Armstrong on Pride. Armstrong 2 seconds less in the pit. Schalkeveld here, is he going to have a little bit of a moment? Is it going to be too much on the grass?
Overtook Garin on the pit exit.
Overtook Garin on the pit exit. Sorry, that's why Schalkeveld is where he is right now. As we're just saying, we keep watching Reiter. Yes, Armstrong in the pit with 2 seconds less in the pit to Cody Pride. We talk about the fuel saving. We thought maybe was it going to be pace versus fuel saving. Armstrong got the good fuel save there. He's taken the lead. 2.5 seconds. It's going to be tough now for Pride to get that lead back with 15 minutes to go. They're on lap 55 of a possible 70. That is going to be tough. Reiter again. You look and you think to yourself, you just don't need to go for a send there. But he feels like he has to. That gap does start to drop now. Remember, he is not entitled to let the driver by. He's in his own battle right now. Maxine is in his own battle against Fabian. But Reiter knows the situation here. He has to keep thinking about this. When does he go? He doesn't want... Well, he does want to get ahead. He knows he needs to keep going. He's nowhere near. Absolutely nowhere near at the moment. Has to start thinking to himself, what do I do? What do I do? Now, he's got a good run here out of Coppers. He might make it now, finally. Smith's not racing him. Reiter's going to go for this. If this is not clean, he's going to be losing more time, and he's got no overlap, but he's going to go for it anyway. He can't. No. Oh, no. I mean, where do you look here? Smith's got his own battle. Reiter's got his own battle. That gap is now 2 seconds. Where do you look? I mean, this is tough. And now Reiter has it again because, look, Smith's had a twitch. This is going to... I hate to say it. This is going to end in a bloodbath. I'm sorry. This is going to be hard. There's a second gap now between Fabian Scheitek and Maxine Smith. There's a 2-second gap between Thomas Reiter and Albin Kjellberg. And there we go, a spin! And there goes Maxine Smith into the wall. That is heavy. That's a heavy one.
I wonder... okay, we'll have to look at the replay on that. Interested to see. Let's break that down and see what happened in a few moments. Mark Schalkeveld and Garin. Garin is not wanting to give it that position. He's still there or thereabouts, isn't he? And he's trying to get that move back, although he's not really having too much luck at this moment in time. Just sort of sitting there again, biding his time, seeing where he's quicker, seeing where he's slower. Let's just have a quick... Let's just have a little quick look and see... I really want to get a replay. And in fact, let's just have a quick look here. So I think this is going to be it. If I can actually bring it up, here we go. So we see a little bit of a moment. Comes back on the track. Wow, I mean, that was... Look how close Reiter was there. That was so close. Unfortunately... Well, I suppose, unfortunately, obviously, that did happen. It's certainly not what we wanted to happen necessarily. But it has now released Reiter a little bit. The gap is now back up to 2.4 seconds. It was 2 seconds at one point. It's now 2.4. So the gap has gone back up from Reiter to Kellberg. And that is exactly what Reiter needed. It's actually 2.3 seconds. Apologies. So it has gone back up. It just needs to stay there or keep increasing for the next 13 minutes. So all it needs to do for the next 13 minutes is just continue to rise or stay the same. And then there'll be no way, with any slipstream or anything like that, the Kellberg's going to be able to catch up. If there's a little bit of a if there's a little bit of a slipstream, then that may actually bring a little bit of battling into the mix. But it's very, very late in the day for anything in terms of positioning to catch up now. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But as long as Reiter just keeps his cool, he'll be secure in P2.
I like how you say late in the day when it's still 9:40 sim time, but we know exactly what you're talking about here. Garin has been overdriving this car. We've seen it. Those moves, the way the back of the car has been sliding out of McLean, out of Coppice. You can just see he's been trying to push that car. He is worried about Sophie Ridpad behind. Ridpad, that car behind them, is a lap car and trying to unlap himself. Mashalkoverd has made him have a little bit of a moment there. Guess where? Yes, at Old Hairpin. He's been able to defend this, though. He's had to take a defensive line through McLean's. But Garin's not been able to capitalize on that. Not been able to get any type of switch back here. And he is losing a little bit of time out of Coppice. Can he look at this now? 0.3 of a second. He did try and ascend a couple of laps ago. This is going to be a late one. This is going to be a late again. I'm sorry. That is not the move you should be making there. And look at what it's done. Now he's in a battle with Sophie Ridpad. Ridpad's got every right to be this right now because, pace, if you've got the pace, you can unlap yourself. Ridpad is pulled back. If you're Mitchell right now in that Porsche, you're thinking, come on, Sophie, get by him. Get by him. Put yourself in between us. I just need that space. There's 10 minutes left. There's about 9 laps left. Please do that. But at the moment, not happening. And now that's a little bit of a lifeline. Going wide is Garin. But how many lifelines do you need? I mean, every lap, something else happens, and this gap remains. 0.3, and there it is. Too much on the inside there. Was that just too much turning? Because I think the back just went there.
Yeah, it might have been, actually, just a little bit too much. Let's have a quick look at a replay here going through. And yeah, just a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too... yeah, I think what you'll probably find here is the car was just a little bit out of sorts, maybe a fraction too late on the turn in, and that just caused a little bit of imbalance in the car. So if you look at it from the onboard, actually it doesn't look like it was too late on turn in, to be fair. I retract that statement. It may have just been a slightly too aggressive, maybe almost like a bit of a, maybe a bit of a flick of the car, perhaps. Could have very well been it. Sean Campbell just gone up the inside of Lewis Ward. So Lewis Ward now goes up into... Sean Campbell inherits P4. He's got 17 seconds up to the back of Oscar Copa, though. So I feel that this is where Campbell will be happy here. I don't think 17 seconds is certainly not going to be made up on pace, on outright pace alone in the next 10 minutes or 9 minutes if we have got left. Yeah, I feel for Garin there. It's just maybe a fraction too aggressive on the turn, and especially with the car you've got low fuel, which is fine, but then you've got very, very worn tyres now. They've done a stint and a half. They've done 2.5 stints, admittedly not full fuel, but still 2.5 stints nevertheless. That has put it's put a fair few heat cycles into those tyres, and they will be at the end of their life. If you were doing an endurance race, you probably wouldn't be wanting to go much further before you were thinking about changing tyres. So, yeah, I wonder if that's going to be if that was the reason why.
What a comeback, though, for Sean Campbell. At one stage, he was at the back of the pro field after a couple of mistakes. So to come back to P4, what we were talking about, recovery drives. Don't aim for where you were. Just start aiming for other positions. And like you said, P4 might be the place for him. That is going to be pretty vital. If he can hold on to that, then that is where he needs to be. Now, elsewhere, because we're just going to keep our eyes on this, but there is a few other battles going on. Thomas Reiter does have that lead to Alvin Kjellberg, but that lead is not the lead, sorry, that gap to Kjellberg, that gap is starting to close again. Reiter's now a second ahead of the of Kjellberg there for P2, as I'm just keeping my eyes on that because he's just letting a couple pros by, and that actually is just now going to drive in. Maybe we'll just get onto that any second now, with Kjellberg now on the back of Reiter after what happened there. Reiter having to let the James Armstrong through, and all of a sudden you've got Kjellberg and Reiter back together again for the first time in a while, with Campbell here just holding on. You'll start to see it in the timing tower. It is orange. We'll get to that. There is a couple battles in the amateurs still brewing. You've got Fabian Scheisek in front of Reiter, and Kjellberg is what we're seeing at the moment. Campbell continues to go around. Armstrong now has lapped. Now, this is crazy. Armstrong has lapped every car but P9, which is Stuart Reynolds in the Pro-Am. So, from Clayton's and Reynolds down, everybody else is lapped. That is the pace that they have been doing today, which is just mind-blowing. And they've only been doing 103s. You know, they've been keeping it low 103s, those guys at the front, Armstrong and Pride, keeping it low 103s. Like these guys been doing 103s, a little bit of 104s. Kjellberg's going to be looking for a switchback here. He's going to be trying to make this move. It's not a move that you can make, and he just can't make it into McLean's. He's starting to think about it. I think he knows this is his own. This is one of his only opportunities. With 6 minutes to go, it's now or never. And if Reiter gets held up, Reiter getting held up by a pro driver, you know, it's not on purpose. It's just Reiter's got the pace. It's starting to just play havoc with him. Surely his mind is not going to be there right now. Surely he's thinking, I'm losing time here because people are slower than me. Surely that's what it's going to be. Is that stand by Kjellberg? No, but you can see. I don't know how you get out that mentality right now, that thinking that you're losing time because of the car in front. Is there a way? I mean, you just got to look forward, surely.
Yeah, I mean, Reiter needs to. He's obviously got to be focusing absolutely 100%. Oh, PJ Clayson, what's happened to Clayson's? Clayson has had a big moment. Where has that been? Oh, I wonder if that's the after effect of the incident that he had before. As he gets it over the curb. Oh, no, I thought he saved it, but no, he didn't. I thought he saved it. Keeps out of the barrier, though, so fair play. He does keep out of the barrier. He comes onto the track. Luckily, there was no one sort of in the immediate vicinity, so it could have been a little bit of a dangerous rejoin, but he manages to... Again, it's not really anything to worry about all that much. Yeah, wow, what is Kjellberg? It's a bit naughty. No! Oh, but how have they not... How did they not have an incident there? This is getting very, very antsy between both drivers here. And I'll tell you what, Kjellberg wants the position, but Reiter's not letting by. Kjellberg is using all of the track and more. And I don't think Reiter's got anything to say about this. Is it going to end in tears? It very could do here. Kjellberg goes a bit wide. Reiter's got the cutback. Oh, there we go. There we go. Does Kjellberg manage to say? He does. Kjellberg oh, blimey, let me try that again. He does. Kjellberg manages to save it. Although Reiter did give him a little bit of a nudge there. So that started all the way back from out of the last corner. I think that was a little teeny tiny bit. Actually, it was pretty naughty from both drivers. No, it was aggressive racing, and both drivers managed to keep going in the end. Although I feel it was just a little bit too, maybe just a bit too aggressive. I think from both drivers. Kjellberg, I mean, he's only 6/10 behind, and you see how much he was catching up before. Look, he's already on the back. He's already on the back of Reiter. This is going to be, and you know, absolutely know full well, there is going to be a send here from Kjellberg, because he is going to get that car as close as he possibly can, and he is just going to throw it up the inside. I imagine going into the chicane, probably on the last lap. I think that's going to be my bet.
Yeah, I want to point out one thing as well. We saw that Kjellberg had that advantage. He had the pace to try and go around on to Reiter there, coming out the chicane the lap previous, but Reiter held his line. That was not Reiter keeping him off the grass. That was his line. Kjellberg wanted to go there, and there was nowhere to go, and he forced himself wide. How they never touched then, I don't know. How they never touched hard out of the old hairpin, I don't know. But the gap just continues to shrink, and it's amazing the pace that Kjellberg has found all of a sudden on a low fuel run. They're on lap 66. They're a lap down. The leaders are about to start lap 68 as these guys start their lap 67. They're going to be finished a lap down, so there's only a couple laps left to go. In fact, there's 2:32, and you've got the leader. Where is James Armstrong at the moment? He's just started his lap. There's going to be 3 laps to go. Definitely 3 laps to go as these guys are still battling. Yes, we know there is a battle at the back with Simon Dodd and El Haddad. We'll try and keep up to that in the moment, but it's not very close. That's at the back there. We know that this is perhaps the best battle, the closest battle on the field at the moment. And it is a very tough one because, let's be brutally honest, Reiter has got no car ahead of him that he has to battle. It's a lapped car in front of him, so he can just keep on pushing. Can Reiter be... Look, I can't say can Reiter not be aggressive. Can both of these guys just not be aggressive? Andrew Maidell's just got a little bit wide. You'll see him just coming on the side there. I think he's had a little bit of a moment coming around Coppers there, but he holds on. Now, Kjellberg's going to look for this. That is not a move you can make there, Kjellberg. He's going to hold back. He's going to set himself up. Does not hit the sausage curve, so he gets a good run here. But at the same time, Reiter gets the same. He got a really good run there. That's just what you needed. Sometimes you can kiss the sausage curve a little bit there to get the speed. But Reiter, what a move that is there. They've got 2 laps to go.
Yeah, 2 laps to go, and Reiter's found a little bit of composure. He was looking a little bit sketchy, just dropped off the pace ever so slightly. And Kjellberg was certainly the quicker of the 2, although it's now a bit of a role reversal. And you see, Kjellberg is pushing this car massively aggressively. If anything, Reiter's actually driving a bit conservatively, which I think is the best way to be at this point. Oh, that's a send. That was going to be a bit of a send. Whoa, Reiter goes a little bit wide. That's going to get Kjellberg up the inside. I tell you what, is Reiter going to try and ping around the outside? He's going to try and give it a go. Kjellberg's up the inside, and there is going to be, that is it, the move that's taken lap after lap, several laps to go, and with several laps done, and that is the move that he needed. Didn't take him, he eventually got it, and I just don't think Reiter has anything really to give after that. His car just doesn't look. He did gain a bit of composure, gain a bit more time on the pace just ever so slightly, but unfortunately, I don't think it was going to be enough. There is James Armstrong on the last lap. So he's just gone through onto his final lap. And then he's got, what, that's a 3.7 second lead on Cody Pride. Now, Cody Pride, obviously, fair play indeed. Cody Pride led for a majority of this race. Only in the final third has James Armstrong got by, but he has extended that lead, so it has been a very, very impressive run for the Audi. In the Sim 3D Sport number 47, just takes it a little bit, maybe taking a few liberties with the track limits, but manages to keep the car pointing in a straight line, which is good. One more chicane to go on the last lap, and he will take it.
Sorry, Reiter's just made the move up at Coppice, and he's got the inside. Armstrong has deserved his victory. He'll take the victory here. Finally get that victory he's missed out on twice. He will get that. Into the final chicane goes Kjellberg and Reiter, and Kjellberg around the outside. It's going to hold on to this. Sprint race to the finish line. It's a short finish line, and Kjellberg gets that P2. What a finish. They went side by side. What a finish by those two. Wow. Wow, I've got no words. That, when you have to make the move around the outside of the chicane, you do it on the last lap. We said there was going to be a chicane move. We didn't think it was going to be that. Michael Pannerman, here you come. He has dominated when he got from the back to the front in the arms. And look at the gap, it's 10 seconds. It's another victory for Michael Pannerman. When I say another, that is 3 in a row. He missed he did not get a result the first race, and he has gone 3 in a row. What a drive by Michael Pannerman. Again, I'm trying to pick my jaw up from that moment. What? Wow. Kjellberg. Wow. I've got no words.
No, neither have I. That was one hell of a final couple of corners. I mean, fair to Reiter, really gave it a go. Just unfortunately wasn't able to give the car, just wasn't able to push the car where he needed it to. But I mean, certainly he did not have the best car out of the two. He definitely did not. But overall, I mean, yeah, you're certainly not going to quarrel at that, are you? In the slightest. We are going to have to take a very short break, a very short ad break. We will be back for the results. So make sure you don't go anywhere. We're going to have a chat with the top 3 as well. So do stick around. We'll be back in a few moments' time.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. Racing to in the diversiest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iracing.com.
Let's pick our jaw up. Wow, what a finish there. Let's look at the pros quickly. We know what happened. James Armstrong making the pit maneuver there. The strategy worked out well for him. He wins by Cody Pride. He led most of the race, Cody, but that pit stop there just cost him. They're 3.5 seconds behind, and James Armstrong gets that victory finally. Oscar Copa comes home in P3, and the recovery drive from Campbell gets P4. Then it's Lewis Ward in 5. It is Albert in 6th, and then Soton's in 7th. Then the rest are all laps down. Scheitek in the Ford there, getting a lap down. Clyson's a lap down. Maxine Smith had a few moments, and then Jesse Jones, we saw what happened. Kevin Playton will be P12. I think he pitted and retired early on in the race. Stuart Reynolds, wow, he just went ahead of everybody there, didn't he? He won the Pro-Am, of course. He was the only man a lap ahead. So Kelberg and Reiter, we talked about them, didn't we? What a finish that is. Daniel Sedgley, though, comes home in P4. Mitchell Marshalkova led at the start of the race there, but the pace just started to fall off a little bit. But he comes home recovered in a P5. Ethan Bass will be 6th in that Ford, and Raphael Garin will take 7th. Sophie Ripad recovers to 8th overall after all the issues, and Harry Wills, we are still waiting on confirmation if his rig is in one piece. Actually, he said that he would demolish it if he did crash out at his home track at Donington. Unfortunately, we did catch that. Florian Copeland will be 10th, and Chmielewski finishes in 11th. And then when we go to the amateurs, Michael Paterman, it's 3 races in a row now as he started from the back and worked his way up to get that victory. Following Paterman as well, Manuel Carrera will be finishing in P2, and then you've got Dean Timms in 3rd. Alfredo Haddad recovers as well to a 4th place, and Simon Dodd gets that 5th in the Ferrari. Werner S gets 6th. Goet Kaseki will be 7th. Andrew Madel, he also had a few offs there as well, will come home. Then it's Van der Broek as well. He had some couple moments as well. And Engel Padero will finish at the back there in P10. Now, we do have actually James Armstrong. I want to get this interview done because it's been 2 races that we have sat here and looked at this man just lose results at the end by just some unfortunate things. But finally, James Armstrong, first at the winner's line. That's got to feel like the monkey's off your back.
Oh yeah, it's amazing to finally win the race especially after dropping it at Watkins Glen when I was clear in the lead with 3 laps to go, and then same at Okayama where I should have been P2 and then spun on the last corner. But yeah, getting the win finally is really good.
Yeah, was there? Was there? I'm gonna say anxiety. Was there a feeling of something's going to happen because it has happened? Were you worried about that in any way, or were you just focused? Because at the end of the day, I mean, you can be thinking about that, but at the same time, this track's like the M25. It is hard to get around.
Oh yeah, no. I was just chilling behind Cody all race, just not pushing too hard, not going too slow, and yeah, I didn't think about crashing, just thought about winning.
And of course, you gained 2 seconds in the pits. we were talking about it. Was there a lot of that just down to the fuel saving? Because it did feel like you just stayed behind, like you were saying. I'm guessing the fuel saving was the vital key for you there.
Oh yeah, just like at Watkins Glen when I was behind Jesse Jones, I just fuel saved so much. I had 3 laps of fuel when Cody boxed, which just allowed me to, you know, get that 2 seconds in the pits and keep clear ahead.
Yeah, well, I know next week there is a special event coming up. You know, it is the 12 hours of Bathurst coming up for iRacing, but it is Spa next week on my birthday. Now tell me, are you looking forward to Spa? Because it is GT3s at Spa. It's a fantastic combination. What are we going to expect to see from you at Spa?
To be honest, Spa is not one of my strongest tracks. I'm really not the best at Spa, so I'm just hoping for maybe a top 3 result would be nice at Spa. I know it's easy to keep in the draft, so hopefully if I am a bit slower than everyone else, I can keep up with the draft.
You hammered me down there. I hyped up Spa and you just shot me down. I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean. It is a challenge, especially in the cars. But anyway, James, any shout-outs you'd like to give before we let you go on your way?
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank just the team for the support on the practice, and shout out to Man and Race Products for also supporting the team. So yeah, I think that's it.
Well, James, thank you for coming on after the race, and congratulations for getting the monkey off your back, as I say, and getting that victory. Hopefully that will just lead to more, and we look forward to seeing you next week. So, James, all the best and have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I'm just wondering if we have anybody else. I don't think we have anybody else at the moment. So I think that would give us a good time to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to Absolute Sim Racing once again. If you do like what you see, please hit that thumbs up for the YouTube algorithms. Please hit that subscribe button if it's your first time here. We do have more racing, of course, because later on tonight is the Americas series of this, and I believe they are also at Donington. I know some of the guys were saying, I think Logan was saying earlier that he's racing here and was getting a little bit of an eyesight of what to expect around here, so do check that out later. Our schedules are actually up there. You can see if you hit that bell button, you'll get to know when we have a scheduled broadcast coming up. Shout out once again to Race Anywhere for sponsoring the series, and also check themselves out, as well as Sim3D. But I think that will do it for the evening. It has been a very entertaining night at Donington. I want to say thank you once again to Daniel for the microphone and the camera work. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week. I won't be having any drinks, despite it's my birthday. Don't worry about that. We'll get to that next week. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. For myself, Craig King, and Daniel Handover, I wish you all a very good evening. Stay safe, and we'll see you later. Good evening.